Hello, gorgeous. My name is Jessica Angelari, and today we are speaking about some of the challenges that women face when aligning to their desires and their biggest dreams. My passion is to help women attend to their deepest truth about who they really are, and that includes your deepest desires. So, they're in alignment with your feminine and your body and your heart, which are one anyway. Usually, I will use the beginning of the year to digest a lot of my internal world before I take those actions. We're still in this winter phase if you are in the Northern Hemisphere. So it's really a beautiful time to return to your internal world and to start looking into what it is that you desire. Now, women have desires, and along with their desires, they have these internal conflicts. Because in this modern world that we live in, as we know, it moves fast, it's consuming, and we as women are not really supported in this cyclical way of life, which is the feminine. And because of this, we're always looking outside of ourselves. And then because of that, we also overcommit. We might say yes when we actually mean no. And guess where what that leaves us to feel? Overwhelmed, right? Continuously exhausted, burnt out. We feel that we are not content or that we don't have the power to make the changes in our life. And then we might even start to feel resentment, especially in our relationships. And this is a cycle that repeats time and time again. And then when this happens, women not only feel burnt out, but they also become disconnected from their bodies, which contains all of your answers. We also disconnect from our feelings, from these sensations. And then in turn, we also turn away from what we truly desire and know about ourselves. So when we become disconnected and we're living in a way that is numbed or not connected to our heart, to our womb, to our yoni, we are basically living this life that does not resonate with who we are in our hearts and who we were born to be. And so we push through life, we fulfill everyone else but our own needs, and we walk around completing the expectations of society and doing all the right things. And yes, at the expense of us and our well-being and our happiness. And this just does not sit well for me. I mean, does it for you? And in my opinion, the world that we live in has just made it so difficult for women to be in this flourishing state, in their more flowing feminine state, which feels at ease, relaxed in their body, in this state of happiness and bliss, in this devotion, this decision to make an internal promise to their heart, their yoni. Instead, we are doing more, and therefore we feel overwhelmed, and therefore we feel more disconnected. So we need to know how to come back into the body, which is our home, and know that when we are here, this is where we truly have always longed to be. And this is where we start to feel more aligned to love, and we come back into this state or this feeling of eternal love. And in this space is where we discover what truly makes us happy. Because a lot of the time, we are focused on what we want and all the things outside of us. But we often forget to connect with this wholeness that we are, that everything you need is right here. You carry an abundance of desires that were truly meant for you. Now, the thing that I have noticed is that when we have a desire, we tend to feel some of these obstacles or challenges. They can arise. And then when we get caught up in those obstacles or those challenges, then we stop really manifesting and aligning to what it is that is meant for us. So I'm going to outline 6 of the challenges that or mistakes. I don't really like to say mistakes, but let's say challenges that women tend to make to avoid going for their desires and their big dreams. And when you avoid, sister, this is when you play small. So let's dive into it. The first common challenge or mistake that I have seen is bypassing what is truly your desire and not. So we have become so confused about our desires and what they really are, and that's because of the disconnection to our bodies. And the yoni. The yoni will grant you every desire when you tune into her and develop this loving relationship with her. I have done a beautiful episode about the yoni, so make sure you check that out. And when you tune into her, you start to listen and receive those desires. But when we don't listen, we're constantly fulfilling the desires or expectations of others. So, for example, when I think back to when I was much younger in my early 20s, I always had this idea or this great need to get married. And when I was in these relationships, the men that I was with didn't want to get married. And I was feeling so devastated. And I didn't know why until one day I realized that these desires actually are not mine. They might be for many other women, and that's beautiful. But for me, they at that time, it wasn't my desire. Things change, obviously. But I realized that this need to get married so quickly was actually part of the conditioning of my family and my culture and religion. So the universe was sending me all these situations and heartbreaks to fully come to my own realization that these were not even my desires in the first place. So it's only now in this beautiful conscious relationship that I'm in where this has not been the center point of my desires. Instead, the center point of my desire right now is to feel that beautiful divine union and to be living on purpose. And this is why I love leading women and living this beautiful life with my partner and living this life that feels at ease. I feel at ease and full of love and contentment. So what is actually important is you start reflecting and exploring if your desires are actually yours. Are they the desires of your family or your society or the environment that you live in? And how do you know? You just ask yourself, is this really meant for me? And you will know because it feels like a feeling of coming home. And you can ask yourself, if I had this desire fulfilled today, how would it make me feel? Will it bring me contentment in this moment? Will it bring me calmness to my body? Would it mean that I am living my life wholeheartedly? So these are some of the questions that you can ask yourself when you are setting those intentions as well. And obviously they change moment to moment, year to year. So what works for you today or not work for you today might work for you next year. You get to create and bring in any type of life that you declare to be true. Really feel into that. You create everything because you are the embodiment of the universe. You are the creator. You are the source of existence. So you create the life. You create your whole universe. And that is the work of the feminine. And this is then when you tap into this creative energy, that is then how you cultivate that magnetic energy. But first, you have to truly know what it is you truly want and desire in your life. And it has to come from, not from the mind, but it has to make you feel like a heart yes, a womb yes, and a yoni yes. Now, the second point I wanted to state, the second challenge is that we are really quick to look to the external. And this, yes, relates to the first one. I feel that as women, there is usually an excuse for why they can't live the desire they want. There are always these excuses as to why they can't dream big or why they can't invite in a conscious man. I'm sure that you've heard, or you've heard women say there are no conscious men out there, but they are everywhere. So there is this excuse as to why women can't have a desire right now. Let me tell you, the time will never be right. There is always an external reason or blame as to why we can feel down, why we can't have this certain thing, why we can't be more healthy or financially abundant. There is always going to be different excuses if we allow that to lead our life. And this is how we also block the happiness and the contentment that is right here. There are the same stories being played out. When I have money, then I can have this partner. Or when I am skinny, then I can go out dating. But when we do this, we also settle for less. Or we say, this is just how life is. This is how my life is. But you get to create your own reality. And you are not here to hold on to all of the guilt and all of the doubts that continue to play out in your life. You have the capacity to hold more than one emotion and one desire, to hold more than one feeling. So, yes, you can feel the doubt, but you can also feel into the great abundance that is there for you. And sure, challenges are inevitable, yes, but life is beautiful. So why not experience all of it in all of its glory? Now, I'm about to share something with you that is a hard fact. But the reason why you are not meeting your desires is not because of the external or that life is happening to you. This is all about you and what is happening in your eternal internal world. External influences are easier to face. It's always easier to blame others. It's always easier to point fingers, right? Than to go really within and to look at what is really going on. What is really happening here that is blocking my great magnetic abilities? The internal decision to go within and face what is happening, yes, can be challenging. I know. But let me tell you, it is the way that you evolve, that you keep moving, that you grow, and that you continue opening up to fresh new energy and to continue aligning to what it is that is meant for you, especially that great love. We need to dissolve the distractions from the external and really know how to go within and be in the void and to go into that stillness, to go into that quietness and not bypass what is really there, even if it does feel challenging. But you are the greatest resource of love. When you allow yourself to go into that void, you start to realize that all these blocks start to dissipate and you start to allow beauty back into your life. And that means you also start to listen to the desires that were given to you by your soul. The third obstacle or challenge that I see women making when really aligning with their desires is we have normalized this whole concept of ignoring what our desires are, forgetting what they are. A lot of the time, we have been conditioned to ignore and bypass our own feelings or bypass what we need or want. And this is because we have had to survive. And life feels challenging. It can feel difficult. Like I said, it doesn't support the feminine way. So, I mean, how can we blame us? We already feel overwhelmed, and there are so many expectations on us. And the last thing we want to do is confront what is truly there. Now, this relates to the previous point that I mentioned. But the more we suppress, the more we exile parts of ourselves that are really calling for our attention, and the more we manifest these into physical pain, we move away from really what makes us feel fulfilled. And we might even feel fear to ask what we really want because we feel or we've been told that we're too much. Because the truth is, as well, we don't even really know what we want. So when we don't know what we want, we're continuously feeling scattered and we're not anchored into the body. And then we can't really stand true and in integrity in the body to make those desires happen. But I do know that there is always a part of you inside of you that desires for more love, for more connection, for more ease. Let's start aligning to this feeling of more. It breaks my heart to see women ignoring what they really want. And we all know deep down what it is we truly want. This ignoring of our desires and ignoring the void to go into that quietness leaves a big emptiness inside of us. And in that emptiness, we also feel dense, we feel heavy. So when we ignore our creative, juicy feminine, it also affects us collectively. And it also leads into physical illnesses. I experienced this many years ago. For me, it was a severe case of irritable bowel syndrome in my earlier years. And I was in this constant anxiousness and stress. And I had always felt this physical pain in my body, especially in my lower centers. Yes, my yoni as well. I had a lot of pain there in my belly, in my womb. And it was all because I started to realize this as I did a lot of my own healing work. I started to realize that I just wasn't safe in my own truth. And I didn't feel safe to really own what I wanted. And so it came to the surface in my body. My anxieties and my stresses ended up manifesting into physical pain. And a lot of it, as I said, was stored in my core. And that's all related to your powerhouse as your feminine, where your confidence lies, where your worthiness lies, where your ability to create lies. And so I felt blocked a lot of the times. And this was something that I had been lacking in. So I was always looking outside of myself. It became important to me to know what type of life I really wanted to live. I didn't want to live in this pain anymore, in this discomfort. And I didn't even want that to be my norm. I didn't want to feel stuck anymore. And I just didn't want to feel not good enough or not deserving. I'm glad that I also went through all of that because I wouldn't be sitting here today sharing all of this wisdom with you and seeing women flourish and thrive in their bodies. This path that I took, I'm going to be honest, wasn't an easy one. I had to face a lot of disappointment, especially with family, but I knew that I had to stay true to myself. And I'm so glad I did because it opened up so many doors and opportunities and so much more love in my life. And it wasn't until I moved to Mexico for love, for my beautiful man, that I completely detached, removed myself from all of these expectations and conditions placed on me. It wasn't until then that I started to really integrate my desires into my reality, despite what everyone was saying and thinking and questioning about my life. But I knew deep down that this felt aligned, that this felt true to me, and I wasn't going to stop making those things happen. And now I'm not saying as well that you have to move away and start your life from scratch. This is why I've also created programs like Feminine Remembrance, where we dive in together, holding hands, so you can realize your potential and your desires in a way that feels safe and loving and sensual and also fun. It doesn't have to be hard. We can do this together. But my point is that you can do this, sister, and you deserve to have your desires fulfilled and met. Now, the fourth point I wanted to mention was we are scared as women collectively to desire too much. This is one of the biggest, I think, one that I have seen many, many times. And this is one that I feel is the most common amongst women, is that they feel that they're being too much. The fear of, am I being too much, is real. And this is a great dark aspect of the feminine. It leaves us thinking that we are not good enough, or we start to create these stories about ourselves, or we play small because we start to think, well, what will happen? What will happen to me? Or what will people think of me? Or who am I to even think like this? Or we start to think, well, no one has even done this before. It doesn't make any sense. How can I even have this? It can't even be possible. Well, that's the other thing. Remember, I always say the feminine is not logical. She doesn't work in a linear way. We also put others on a pedestal, and that also creates this story within us of, who am I to even go for that when, or to be talking about these things when other people are already doing it. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Instead, perhaps you can shift your perspective and look at that person that you do put on a pedestal, see them for the person that they are, and to know that even they have their own struggles. Even they have had to start from somewhere that could have been challenging. Another thing to remember is that every desire that is planted within you has been planted by your soul, and that sits right in your yoni. And your desires were given to you for a reason. So the question is, are you willing to reach in, to listen, and activate it? Make it become a living reality through your womb space. You have that power, sister. Another challenge that I have seen that is very common when moving towards your desires is that we are afraid of failure. The fear is real, but this is what holds us back. And we can fear the changes that can happen in our life. Sometimes when we have been hurt in the past, we don't want to feel that hurt again. We don't want to feel that pain, right? So to avoid being hurt, we might hold our hearts closed, or we start to control situations. We grasp on because we think that the more I control this situation, the more I can control the outcome. But this does not serve our feminine, receptive, magnetic ways to receive. The feminine attracts through her receiving, her receptive energy. And that only happens when you let go, right? So I want you to remember that as well, that everything we've been through in the past is never a fail, and it is never something to regret or to feel shame about or to continue holding your heart closed about. Instead, every situation that you go through, especially the challenging ones, is an opportunity for you to take on a new, fresh perspective, whether it's to learn from it, to grow from that, so you can eventually then step into your highest version of yourself. What is important here is that we just recognize the patterns and we work with them. And the more we bring that to our attention and be real about it, the more it slips away, as I mentioned before, and the more that it stops having this hold on your heart. So we also need to trust ourselves, trust the universe. Now, another challenge that I see women face is this internal conflict with themselves around, what if I actually receive my desire? So women start to feel, well, what if I actually do receive this? What if things need to change in my life? Women have this fear of being successful. We have a fear of what happens if I actually receive this desire. Will it mean that things need to change in my life? And this can feel a little bit overwhelming, a little bit scary, right? It could happen. You could eventually have things change in your life. But let me tell you, let me remind you that if you are aligning with your heart and what resonates deeply with your heart, then you will only magnetize what is supported to be there. This is how you start to feel at ease in your life. You will only magnetize wonderful, beautiful, nourishing things that will actually bring you more ease and abundance into your life. Therefore, it's a really healthy and positive place to be in. You do have the strength to make the changes. You do have that strength within you and the courage. And I believe that women know deep down that they have the power to change and do things differently in society, in their relationships, in the workplace. And this is a great, fierce power to have. And perhaps that big power can feel a little bit scary. I totally understand. Because, as I said, it could mean changing relationships, changing people, lifestyle. You might need to start setting boundaries, and that can disappoint people who are not ready to really receive this big version of you. You will have to maybe change certain things that you do in your life. And all of this can feel like it's too much. But when we get stuck there, this is when we don't go ahead with moving forward and inviting you fresh perspectives and opportunities and wonderful things that are meant for you. What if you knew that you were meant to be aligned to people and be in a relationship that felt aligned and fully resonated with love? It felt easy, it felt respected, it felt reciprocated. What if you started to live a life where you started to feel lighter within yourself? You started to feel more free because you don't hold yourself back. You started to feel nourished within because you're placing those boundaries. Could that toxic cycle that you've been maybe living for years and leaving that, can that really be detrimental to your well-being? No way. The biggest mistake that you can make is to get stuck and to not see every opportunity or every experience as an opportunity to grow, to flow, to move through it, to expand. The biggest mistake that we can really make is to stop ourselves from receiving those big desires and ignoring them, being afraid to receive, being afraid to be successful. At the end of the day, despite the fears or the doubts or the pain, I always want you to choose you. You can choose you. Choose the love that you are, the love that exists inside of you. This is your natural essence. When you meet with this love, this very existence of you, you see and you feel your wholeness, and you start to know that what is meant for you will happen, and your desires are real. They are a beautiful seed that was given to you for them to be birthed into this world. So we can start bringing more beauty and love into this world, which is so needed. Your desires can never be too much when they come from your heart and your womb. And if you do think it's too much, always ask yourself, is this coming from the need to gain attention or to prove my worth to others? Or is it coming from a place of, yes, this feels right? This feels like home. And if it is that, that is your yes. And you say yes to this 1,000 times. So, my loves, I have just stated 6 common different challenges, mistakes, or internal conflicts that women tend to face and that I have experienced as well. Do any of these land with you? Let me know in the comments which one really resonated with you and where you are ready to say, I am willing and ready to make a change in my life, to receive what it is I truly desire. And the thing that I want to leave you with is I invite you to reflect on a time that might have felt a little bit challenging, but you went for it. You listened to your heart. You really felt this desire of yours, this yearning of yours, and you went for it. And the outcome felt happy. It felt like home. What was it for you? I'd love to hear about your experience. What was a time where you felt really honey with it and that really started to inspire you and inspired others around you? Always remember to never settle for less. Never think that you can't or that you're too much. Give your feminine a chance to dream and desire big this year. One baby step at a time. You will eventually land somewhere beautiful and grand. And let's stop putting that pressure on ourselves to hurry with our own divine plan. Let's stop pushing. Let's stop comparing with other women, and let's stop making those excuses. Let's stop thinking that in order to desire big, it also means that it has to be something scary, or it means that you're being aggressive. What if it was just intertwined with your pure loving intentions? And then you know you are never hurting anyone. My work is all about you becoming the work because you do the work. This work of transmutation, of stepping in to fully feel that calling within. This work is about the feminine, where your intentions, your every longing are brought through this essence of love and this strength that you are. This strength that is always connected with your divine open heart. Thank you so much, beautiful. May you begin this new year with so much openness, love, expansion, strength, and that real feeling of home in your body. You are so deserving of that. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. If you loved this, don't forget to like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. I will see you. Thank you so much, my love. My name is Jessica Angeleri. Mwah.